Well, for me, I'm a pretty interdisciplinary artist. I believe in the notion that medium can carry a message. And through that lens, I kind of think about how, what something is made out of can influence the way that people think about it, interpret it, and feel the work. Thinking about California and what could represent that, I kind of came to the idea of using the California state flag as sort of a reference point, but then creating it out of the blue jeans materials from Levi Strauss. I hope they notice that the material is worn, it has the stains of labor or history involved in it. Being Californian, being part of the community has always really helped me be invested in what I'm making. Creating something with your hands, when you get those juices flowing, that's really where it's at. And I think any sort of creativity that you can put out there is kind of this power, and to see that used is really quite inspiring.
My name is Sarah Kim, and I'm the founder and designer behind Handmade by Sarah Kim. We specialize in paper art, specifically with paper flowers. We start with sketches and notes. I like to freehand cut all the shapes we create, from the smallest little details to our fun giant paper flower installations. I have always loved doodling and crafting since I was young. I've done sewing, jewelry making, knitting, you name it. I lived at Joann since I could remember, but I loved paper crafting most since it was something I didn't have to rely on any special tools or machines. I literally started creating with just white paper, and the things I was able to make was endless. My inspiration comes from my morning walks in my historic neighborhood off the Victoria Avenue in Riverside, California. It's a gorgeous street with rows of orange trees. It helps me meditate and think about new ideas with paper art. I hope my paper flower creations will inspire others to learn and get crafty too. All you need is paper, scissors, and glue.
My name is Kristen Arzt. I'm a quilter and natural dyer and art educator. Working with plants and natural dye stuffs is a huge source of joy and inspiration. So my materials often come from what's in my backyard or what I find on a walk with my dog. As a teacher, seeing that spark go off in a student, when that moment hits, that makes them inspired to create. That's really what drives me. The community of artists here is very strong and vibrant and beautiful. That's really where teaching and, really making art my business came together, was in that space. I find happiness just in nature, when I feel inspired to create something.
My name is Philip Badingo, and I am the creative director of Canvas Cosplay, originally from Paradise Hills, San Diego, California. I consider myself primarily a sewist, and I've found great inspiration in superheroes and comic books and video games, in the paintings, illustrations, and films that bring to life these amazing and fantastical creations, inspired by these designers. And so I am inspired by the colors, textures, fabrics, techniques used all over the world. San Diego is the home of Comic-Con International. This is a convergence of creators and makers and artists and celebrities, and especially cosplayers. It's a celebration of the diversity of a wide variety of voices. People come together to celebrate their passions, their creativity, and ultimately their self-expression.
I find a lot of inspiration in the Bay Area gardens. Creating compositions with plants in different colors and textures is very meditative for me. When I was younger, I was always doing a craft project, a bead kit, or some sort of drawing. My obsession with glitter and pipe cleaners never really went away. I'm a painter and I use a lot of different types of media in my work. My main focus is color, and I love layering different textures and washes. I love to incorporate glitter and sequins. They just feel very luxurious to me. I need to create these beautiful saturated works. I hope that they bring people a sense of joy.
As a kid, I was always drawing, always making something. And by middle school, I got really into comics, and that's when I knew that I wanted to go to art school and do art professionally. I love to try new things with my art, and I always want to keep learning and finding new ways of bringing my art to life, even when it's challenging. I put a little bit of myself in every art piece that I do, which can be kind of scary in a way, putting yourself out there. But it's also really humbling and gratifying to make yourself vulnerable and let others share that with you. I'm so fortunate to call this beautiful place home. Nothing is too weird, nothing is too nerdy, nothing's impossible, not even being an artist professionally. There's nothing quite like putting down that perfect paint stroke, just being in your happy place, a place that's just for yourself and making something that's never existed before.
I am a traditional pommel basket weaver. I incorporate many traditional techniques and hand-harvested materials like sedge and willow and dogwood. That all has to be maintained and harvested and processed to be used. And then in my contemporary weaving, I also use commercially available materials such as rattan, cotton twine, and I combine those. So I combine traditional materials and I combine contemporary materials to make a new kind of basketry, as well as the very traditional pommel baskets. I'm extremely inspired by the weavers that came before me, not only with their mastery of skill and materials, but with who they are as a person. I'm inspired to keep creating by all the people that continue to want to perpetuate this culture, to keep it alive.
Some of the earliest things I remember making are papier-mâché mummies and working on craft projects with my mom. I work primarily in ceramics. Clay is relatively inexpensive and easy to work with. You can make an entire body of work on your kitchen table. Lately, I've been enjoying working with materials in support of clay. That could be plaster, wood, 3D printing, etc. I'm inspired by my peers who are creatively restless, always in the process of discovering and becoming. I live in Los Angeles, which at times can feel like a sprawling behemoth, but lately feels like a really supportive community of artists, all very dedicated to their work and their friends. I find happiness when I am working and solve some design problem that seemed insurmountable before I started it. I hope that my work inspires people to realize that they can create their own world.
I'm Anna Serrano, and I'm an artist. I create sculptural pieces primarily in brightly colored cardboard and paper. Since a young age, I loved to draw, but what I loved the most was making things by hand. It has always come naturally to me to work three-dimensionally. Most people see cardboard as a throwaway material, but it's my favorite to work with. I find it easy to manipulate and to create with. I've used it for miniatures as well as large-scale installations. Most people are surprised to find out my work is made from cardboard. For others to enjoy my work is always rewarding, but for it to motivate someone to create and to get creative is the ultimate compliment. I find happiness when I'm cutting and gluing cardboard.
I'm a self-taught artist and a painter. My artwork would be best described as contemporary portraiture with unconventional color schemes. I've always just painted what I feel. I kind of like having that freedom when I work and when I create. When I work with portraits, I research them extensively. I like, knowing what they were like, what they were into, and it just kind of helps me to connect a color palette to their personality or what I feel they must be like. I always hope for people to take a memory away when looking at my work, whether it's the whole image or the bright colors. I hope that people remember. That's it.
My name is Karen Gail-Tinney. I'm an artist based in Long Beach, California. I have always been drawn to doing something creative. Since I was little, it's how I would fill my spare time. That led into going to college and pursuing a career in design, which eventually evolved into making my own work full-time. My work is comprised of two materials, ceramic and fiber. I create ceramic pieces, which I then weave onto using a coiling technique that is commonly used in basketry. The two materials came together for me quite naturally. I was always interested in fiber art, and from a young age, I was exploring this medium. Later in life, when I took up ceramics, it seemed obvious for me to combine the two. I hope that others see in my work the beauty of unconventional pairings, how two things that may not seem obvious can come together in a very natural and surprising way.
I actually felt so drawn to art from such an early age, and realizing that I didn't want art to just be a side passion, but I wanted it to be my full-time job. I often look for inspiration in little moments in my life, kind of small moments of beauty that I find are really easy to overlook unless I make a practice out of noticing them. The color of the sky at twilight hour, or just kind of the shapes and forms around me on the mountain that I live, or the feeling that arises when I eat, the most perfect orange at the end of a long hike. I work in a variety of different mediums. For this piece, I used over-dyeing and discharge printing, which allows me to build up layers of color while creating contrast through bold shapes. What I hope others will take away from my art is just a moment of pleasure.
Surrounded by mutating forms and concepts, designer-educator Scott Massey enjoys living, working in the contrasted environments of New York and California. When deep in a collage state, the mind is allowed to take the backseat for a moment, while the eye, hand, and heart search for clues to the riddles life present us on a daily basis. The idea of being a celestial space explorer comes to mind. All action camouflaged in a blur of color, broken down and recontextualized. Through this process, a kinetic energy will be inherent through your design. The marvelous will come. Beauty, a disturbance of the senses that is otherworldly, secular, and psychic. A queue of questions to consider rather than answers. Memories and visions of the past, present, future keep the mind online. The algorithm is in place. The community will continue to provide the bytes and bits of content. At a cluttered table, dark outside, music blasting, ocean close by, neighbors sleeping. This is a tribute to that moment.
My name is Brian Jaycox, and I'm the founder at The Build Shop. I've always had an interest in building since I was really young, playing with erector sets and building plastic models. As I got older, some of that started shifting towards digital hobbies, 3D art, 3D models for games and animation. Today, I bring those same sensibilities into digital fabrication, using 3D printers and laser cutters to take my creative ideas and actually bring them into the physical world.
Something that used to take up a whole room sitting on your desk. That's allowed makers to create designs that wouldn't have been possible before that started becoming more mainstream. As a maker, I hope what we've created will inspire other makers in the same way as we've been inspired by this project.